Thank you.
All right. Well, we're going to get started because I'm so excited to have Shawna and Zach here. And I agree with Melissa. We're probably really, really, really tired. This has been quite the week, but I am so excited to learn about STEM with music. And this goes with their book. Melissa, you just had it. Can you hold it up?
I have it too right here. We'll put it in 2 screens.
It goes with the book, STEM with Music. I remember when they were writing this and talking to them in Texas about it, and this is so exciting. So we have two amazing New Jersey music educators here for our NJMEA webinar, and they are going to do everything STEM with music, and it all comes from their book. So order their book, and oh, someone's taking a picture. Woohoo! And I will put the links all up here in the recording. So if you're watching this after we've already recorded this, click the link and buy the book because you will not be sorry. All right, so Shawna and Zach, take it away.
Hey guys, thanks for joining us tonight. I know we're all tired and it's 8 o'clock, but like I said before we hit record, hopefully this will kind of reinvigorate you or get you excited or give you something you need to kind of spark a new idea or a new direction or something to make you happy, right, Zach?
Absolutely. Especially after, possibly teaching in front of a computer as many, if not all of us either are right now or soon will be in just a little bit, perhaps.
Just a few hours for me.
Yeah, pretty much.
So as Amy said, this book started years ago for Zach and I. It was a long, amazing process, really, right, Zach? I mean, it was good. We had fun. It really expanded our thinking and made us really deep dive and think about other perspectives and this really is a labor of our experience. This is what we've done as professionals, as teachers in the classroom. We put together to share with you guys in this book. So know that it all comes out of, it's not just us like throwing out these ideas and no, they're all tried and true, tested, all been done before.
Absolutely. And, right from our very first conversations in barbecue joints in San Antonio, that's
where the outline of this book was fleshed, by the way, in a like dive barbecue joint in San Antonio, Texas.
It's true. But, as we were there, the questions that kept on coming up over and over again were, how can we make this something that's actually helpful? How can we do something that people want and is immediately usable? How do we give things like high quality theory, but also back it up with, instead of just staying lofty, to give things that are directly accessible? So that was at every stage of the process, really something that Shawna and I kept in, not even in the back of our minds, really, really at the forefront.
Absolutely. And also we wanted to get across like the authenticity of it and in keeping the authenticity to the music that we all teach as music teachers, but then to also have authenticity to the STEM side and have that be an interchangeable highway, I guess is a way to put it, but to like break down that silo and not have it be one camp versus the other, but where do they naturally like intersect? And this book is really the intersection of STEM and music. That would have been a really good title, by the way, instead of integrating, the intersection of. It's really kind of where they naturally come together. It's not, we didn't want stretches or like, is that really, we wanted it really to be, to have your kids digging into both the music and the STEM side. So if you don't know who we are, I am right now a pre-K to 1 general music teacher, but if you don't know my background, I've done everything K to 12, from band to choir to orchestra to general music to music technology to piano to, I mean, you just name it, theory. I've probably done it. I've done supervision. And so that helps me in order to see the progress, because I've had experiences at all those levels to kind of understand where does it start, where can it go, and how does it evolve. And I think that part of the way we looked at this was through standards. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later in understanding that our standards layer and they scaffold and evolve. So anything activity or project that you do, and we felt this really important. So in the K-2 realm within our book, we've got adaptations to do that same project at all grade levels. And so we thought that was really important. So although there might be 15 lesson plans in here, you're actually getting like way more than that, because we're giving you ways to adapt every single one for all of the grade levels to show that scaffolding of knowledge and how you can keep beefing it up as you go up, or take the high school ones and kind of bring them down to the younger kids level and make it still a great authentic experience.
And even within that, if you want to stay within the same grade level band as well, we also just threw in some extra things if you find that you have some extra time, or you don't think a particular portion of the lesson plan is something that you really want to go into, or you don't have the materials for, which would be rare, but let's say it happens. Even if you want to stay in the same grade level band, we provided quite a bit of like interesting offshoots and ways that the lessons meander. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. So Zach, tell us about you in case folks don't know who Zach Gates is yet. I mean,
absolutely. Well, things have changed recently.
They have.
After a long time of teaching choir, well, relative, I suppose, for me, and having graduated from Westminster Choir College and being steeped in the world of choir, I just recently became a high school piano technology and piano teacher in East Brunswick. And it is absolutely the direction that I wanted to go in, mostly because it's been very interesting studying for a while one of the oldest instruments imaginable, but always wanting to mess with, toy with, tinker with, and understand the newest instruments. And I always found myself, it seemed like between a rock and a hard place, playing synthesizers and singing James Blake songs at my voice recital. In a 100-year-old building in Princeton, it really seemed like two worlds were trying to meet at least, and I'm really happy to be exploring kind of the new side, being able to teach the new side in a classroom. It's been pretty nice. So it's a great change.
Awesome. So that is Zach. If you don't know him, you will get to know him. And also this workshop tonight, we're going to kind of give you a little bit. But then we're going to deep dive into this more at the NJMEA conference. So if you haven't registered and signed up, that early bird registration ends really soon. I know we just got an email within the past couple of days, but you can come see Zach and I live at the NJMEA conference, where we're going to also on Friday be talking about this kind of more in depth and give you some hands-on time with a lot of our theories and a lot of our experiences we've included in this book that you'll get to kind of play with and have a little bit more of an experience with how to bring STEM authentically into your music classroom.
Yeah, and let's talk about that authenticism part, because when we first started working on the publication and really bringing our ideas together, there was this interesting urge that we had to keep things positive. It's easy to say, well, this is what good integration isn't. This is a bad idea, and this is something that's inauthentic. And it's honestly easy to go down those avenues and to kind of throw shade on something that might not seem very authentic, something that doesn't align standards. And as we were working, it was really beneficial to find ways, instead of finding the negative side of things, to, instead of giving too many negative examples, give those positive examples and kind of flesh those out, because we wanted it to be helpful.
Absolutely. And we also wanted, we didn't want to throw shade on either side, right? We didn't want to throw shade to the STEM people, because there are silos. I'm not going to lie that they don't exist, that sometimes the STEM people are like, yeah, STEAM, no, that's just a way for the arts to advocate so they keep their programs. And we hear that a lot. In fact, little hidden secret, we weren't allowed to put the word STEAM in our title. right, Zach?
Well, I wouldn't say we weren't allowed, and I wouldn't
We
even say
were we were
but
highly recommended not to. How's that?
it was, I would say that it was discouraged.
Yeah, it was just,
But
yes.
but so the thing was, it was discouraged only on the fact, not on the merits or demerits of whatever you
Right.
call it, but just on the fact that it has the potential of pulling people apart, when literally
The whole
point
point of it is to bring together.
to bring it together. So for us, I mean, even though it was a very interesting moment and thing to kind of uncover, it was a no-brainer, because we were like, okay, like, we're still achieving what we want to achieve. So.
Yeah, what's inside this isn't going to change an ounce.
It didn't.
It didn't.
It really didn't.
It did not. It did not.
Because it didn't have to.
It didn't exactly. And that's the thing. Like, it doesn't matter what you call it. To us, it's just all about making more connections for the kids. And that's where the authenticity comes around, is that the more we can make connections across content areas, the better the kids are going to become, and the more they're going to understand. And a lot of times, by bringing STEM into our music world, or taking music into the STEM world, helps it come alive and see it in a new, more real world lens, where the kids can actually play with things and start to see how it functions outside of our school walls. You know, that why do I have to learn this? There isn't that question, because they can see how it exists outside of our world, their current world, I guess.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. So what does it mean, connecting STEM with music? We've kind of talked about it a little bit. And it's funny, we have this quote from Steve Wozniak that we like to use, and who's, if you don't know who that is, the co-founder of Apple. And he says, "I found the best engineers, the bright ones, the really creative artists that can create an entirely new product category at Apple. They always had a strong music background." And we know that as music teachers, but to have that also out there, that was also a part of our process with this, was thinking about it through that engineering lens, in how does that function within our music classrooms? How are our students engineers as musicians, and how can we find those connections for them?
And in that, in the spirit of engineering, I always like to say, when people are in the engineering process, they may feel like they want to take the prototypes that don't work and throw them in the garbage. But there's so much to learn from those prototypes. Just like if you accidentally hit a B natural instead of a B flat for the 7th time on that clarinet solo piece you're trying to play, you may want to throw your clarinet in the garbage.
It sounds like this occurred. This sounds like something you experienced in your dress rehearsal tonight.
Not personal at all.
Okay, all right.
But the kind of like facing the frustrations of being wrong and being able to learn from mistakes, like, really formative education, kind of things that, I mean, to whatever degree we encounter in our classrooms, just combating the feeling of, oh, I lost, or I messed up, and that's it. It's done. It's gone.
Do you know the poster behind you is The Power of Yet? To the other side.
This is my old classroom, actually.
Is it really? Yeah, there's a poster which totally fits what you're talking about right now. The Power of Yet. That's real cool.
I didn't put it up.
I know you didn't. I knew that. But it's ironic. It's like right there in the frame. And that's really what it's about. It's also giving the students a voice and a choice in the classroom to just explore and see what comes. We may know where we might, like, obviously these lesson plans have an end goal in sight, but each end goal is going to be a little bit different, because the kids are each going to bring something different to the table in how they explore and create and utilize the concepts that we're integrating together. Don't you agree with that, Zach?
I would absolutely agree with that. So it reminds me of a bunch of things. So first of all, I am very, very good close friends with the STEM teacher, with a STEM teacher in East Brunswick, and very often have tons of conversations with this teacher. And and we trade ideas quite often. One of the big things that would always come up in our early conversations was the idea of giving students, as you're beginning a project, an example and the pitfalls of that. You know, we as choir teachers, or as really any ensemble teacher, you know the pros and cons of playing a piece before the kids get a chance to play it. Mm-hmm. You color their image of what the piece is supposed to sound like for the worse and for the better. You perhaps drive them towards what you think is a good quality example, but you also change their experience of finding their own sound and finding their own interpretation of a work. And the same as I think can be said for STEM and STEM integrated with music projects. And this is kind of this is a connection I made in speaking to him, is that when they are doing strictly STEM projects, like anything motion, kinetic related, motor related, it's always for them, in his personal experience, a huge pitfall when giving students something exactly to copy without the intention of giving them that example to just copy. Because yeah, sure, you will end up with 20, let's say like little go-karts, and all 20 work, but all 20 look the same. Mm-hmm. And it's, you know, we're talking, is that authentic? Is it less authentic?
It's like the Pinterest art teacher, not to open up a can of worms here. It's like that find that project, that product-based instead of process-based.
Yeah. And the reality of the process-based is that less of those go-karts are gonna work, or they're going to work less efficiently as a whole. Mm-hmm. But are we trying to like get these go-karts to the moon, or are we trying to teach kids how to think, you know?
Right, exactly. No, that's exactly. And it's same as music teachers, we go through this, right? Because what do we give them, and how much of an example do we show them? And I think that when I, spent my 9 years in middle school general music, that was and it was primarily, I was doing music technology, and I was teaching guitar and things and recording. And that was a big thing for me, was how much do I give them as an example? Where is that line? Because there's a fine line where you're going to taint and put an image and an expectation in their head versus just letting them try it and then helping them pick up the pieces and guide them if they need guiding. So I think that's kind of a big part of it, for sure.
Absolutely. So the willingness to not have 100% efficacy. It's kind of like lesson plan objectives. Only 80, really only 80%. I don't know if you were taught to put that in lesson plans in pre-service, where they said in your lesson plans, just say 80% can achieve the goal. That's what you should do.
That's it. Just 8.
Yeah. Just 80.
Not good enough. Not good enough. But that brings up I have an example of when I first started playing, and I will say playing with Makey Makeys in my general music classroom. And we do have lesson plans using Makey Makeys in here. But when I brought them out, I knew a smidge. I kind of knew the basics. And I was like, just put them out on tables with Play-Doh and stuff. And I was like, so I got these. I don't fully know where we're going to go with this. Let's play around and see what you guys come up with. And I let them help me create the project. And some of them did very basic. Of course, you're going to run the gamut. But then I had this one group. So they did talk about what are conductors of electricity and blah, 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 blah. And this one group, they're like, can we bring in our dartboard tomorrow? And they're like, it's a magnet one. I'm like, oh, okay, a magnet one. All right. I'm like, okay. And they're like, we have an idea. And I'm like, all right, bring it in. And I was like, oh, I don't know where this is going. And I'm going to, full disclosure, was not my greatest group of children. This little cohort of boys, not my all-star stellars, right? They would usually need lots of hand-holding, lots of redirecting, lots. And so they brought it in, and they were determined to hook each dart up to a Makey Makey. And when it hit the board, to have it play a different pitch. And I was like, brilliant. I never thought of that. I had to go get a STEM teacher, a math teacher, and we had to try to, like, together with these children, figure out how can we actually make that happen and what has to connect to what to make it work. And it was one of the most amazing experiences. But I let them run with it. I allowed that space to not know all the answers and to tell the kids and to admit that to the kids. Like, I started off saying, hey, I know how to hook it up. I know how it works. Let's figure out what we can do with it with music together. And all of a sudden, the whole atmosphere of your classroom changes. And the kids immediately became more invested in the work. There wasn't like the, wait, what? It's due. What are we doing? What am I being graded on? Like, they were part of the process. And I think that although you're probably not going to want to do that every single time, I think it's a really powerful thing. And that, especially in this STEM, integrating STEM with music world, you don't need to know everything. Like, know enough to be a step ahead of them, but yet be open to them. They're going to figure out and tinker and play and get things to do that you never even knew could happen with these devices. And so I think that as the teacher kind of shifting to being kind of a facilitator of their learning versus more of a lecturer or teacher, and everything has to come from teacher driven, more student driven in a way, I think is also a big part of this kind of shift in how you think and in how you could bring this into your general music classroom.
And just to highlight from some of the many wonderful things that you just said, Shawna.
Thanks, Zach.
Hey, look, I call it as I sees it. But seriously, one thing that stood out to me that I think deserves highlighting is the part of the story where you said, and I saw this awesome thing, and I saw it had a lot of potential, and so what I did was I just had them throw the darts and I called it STEM and it was a great day. No, you said that you got the STEM teacher and you got the math teacher because not only were you willing to have an aura to the kids in a sense of, look, I don't got all the answers.
Right.
Because I'm not certified to teach all this, or like
everything in the world.
Like,
I'm not certified. I'm just certified for music.
Like, we're singing in French. I'm not certified in French,
Right.
But so it's like, what do? You find someone who's certified in French, or at least can speak it fluently. So in the story, you find a STEM teacher, you find a math teacher. As we talk about authenticity, it can feel daunting in the pursuit of integration to become a master of everything. And that's a big fear. I have to be a master of everything now. They want me to integrate STEM. I have to do that now. Okay. I'm not.
And I got to bring in SEL, and I got these new standards, and we're checking all these boxes.
Yeah. And it's like I'm not a master of that. I'm not certified to teach math. Why are you asking me? The thing is, find people, good people. I promise, even if you haven't seen them in the staff break room in years at this point, I was about to say months, but it's been longer. So if you haven't seen them for years, they exist, and they have a thing called email. And if you want to do something really cool, and you're like, yeah, I ain't got any clue how that works, but I'd love to teach it in an authentic way. You don't have to be a master. You just have to involve one.
You know that saying, like, I'm as good as the people I bring in my group, or as a leader, like, what, I don't know, I'm not saying it right, but there's like a phrase about that, about like every leader's as good as the people they surround them with, or something like that. Yay, nay? You know what I'm talking about?
No. I've heard it, yeah. I'm
just not saying it right. But anyways, my point is, like, in my experience, when I went down this STEAM arts integration journey, I'm not going to call it a rabbit hole, but journey about 9-10 years ago, that's what I started to do. I have my go-to science person, my go-to math person, my go-to language arts person, my go-to STEM, my go-to visual art teacher. And they're like my crew that they know they may get the most random text from me any hour of the day with some bizarro question, and they're cool with it. Like they know they want to be a part of that journey. So I think you got to find your people too. Do you know what I mean? Like, and that helps with it. Can you do it by yourself? Yeah, you can, but like it's much more fun when like you can celebrate with your colleagues. And now you're helping with the climate and the culture of the school, and it like trickles. And although everything in the world isn't our jobs, it just makes work a better place to go to every day, right? And the kids, when they see you working together with others, you're modeling skills that they need to develop as well in how to collaborate with colleagues, and the good that can come out of collaboration and not putting egos in front. Like I am definitely I don't know everything, but I want to figure it out. Like, and I will search high and low and work with whoever. Like, that's why Zach and I wrote the book together, right, Zach? Because we knew the two heads are better than one.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
So a lot of the principles behind ours, we talked a little bit about it already with, we mentioned standards. And so that was really important to us in terms of the theoretical background of bringing STEM and music together. Like, where do you do that? And it's funny, once the book was like done and you can't make any more changes moment, I was talking to Zach and I'm like, oh, Zach, there's something I would totally add next time. Like, and that is, we focus on standards alignment and cognitive demand level. And if you don't know what I'm talking about with cognitive demand level, that's your Bloom's taxonomy. So it's how taxing on the children's brains. And when you're bringing music together with the STEM content area, typically you've got them working their brains really hard. They're probably either analyzing, evaluating, or creating something, which is the top level of Bloom's. And so I just blank. I was on like a really good stride.
Talk about standards and
yeah, standards
as soon as
it's cognitive demand. Oh, I know what it was. And
music
so in
terminology.
addition, yep, you got it. He knew where I was going. And it was, we didn't bring in the also connection point of the elements of music. And it's the basic elements of music. You're like 6 basic. You're like pitch, rhythm, timbre, form, expressive elements, those, basic. And then from there, that's digestible for non-music teachers. Talking about like the dominant fifth, ba ba da ba da, it's going to go over their heads. And that's not to say we don't bring those kinds of things into discussions, because there are advanced music concepts in here. But you have to have that like generalized connection point that people can understand. And I think that was also a part that we didn't really talk about in the book, but in version 2, in the revised, and there'll be an added section about that. But finding you don't want to have 2 standards where one of them says they're creating something and the other one says they're analyzing something. You want they're creating and they're creating. If both standards are talking about creating something, you're getting close to an aligned experience for the kids where those standards kind of go down the same path versus kind of fighting at the crossroads for where they go.
Absolutely. Yeah. And to that as well, standards will, as they always do, change and hopefully get better. The inclusion of media arts, the creation of media arts standards, I was so thrilled to see. Mm-hmm. And I think, and so for example, we, not out of a fear of being too local. So even though we are 2 New Jersey teachers, we did not put New Jersey standards because we do not only want to help teachers in New Jersey. Right. So we did use national standards, but to that as well, we also used international standards, the ISTE international standards. And, in that, I am hopeful that just like the media arts standards were added, that STEAM or STEM integrated with the arts and with music standards become a little bit more fleshed out on a national level, just in general, which would also warrant a second edition.
It would totally warrant a second version of the book. That's right. And you know, what's funny is one of the big things that we talk about also, if we're talking about standards, is that when you're thinking about bringing STEM with music, there are science standards, there are the next generation science standards. There are, Zach mentioned the tech standards with ISTE has the tech standards. We know there are mathematics standards of practice there. Where are the engineering standards? So engineering is included within the next generation science standards, but there's no set of engineering practices for in the K-12 realm. It's supposed to like happen. And we have a big discussion about that in the book, our perspective on the lack of kind of focus for engineering. Listen, what they do in next generation science is fantastic, but if you're really going to dive deep into engineering, there's so much more to it. And so by using this kind of integration, we make an argument for helping to using the arts to kind of be that piece to guide that engineering part, because there's so much design and revision and practice that goes into not only music, but all of the arts, that can kind of be the vehicle to help drive that aspect of it when you bring it together with the STEM world or the STM world.
Absolutely. And my STEM friends would say, you know, they get a lot of students that often have elected to not take music classes. They get a lot of students whose parents will sometimes say, hey, I want my kid to be an engineer. And the kid's in 3rd grade. And it's like, well, your kid could be a lot of things. There's a lot of options. No, but my kid's going to be an engineer. And that's fine. But he and many say, you know, engineering is all math. You know, engineering is just math. But then it's interesting looking at the math standards because it's very curriculum based, very hyper,
very heavy.
And if I have to be honest, and it's not because of any personal deficiency in mathematical knowledge or ability. I really feel like some of the hardest standards to align were the math standards, just because of how incredibly specific they were.
100%. 100%. And I run into this all the time with when I coach for the Institute for Arts Integration and STEAM for their certification program for arts integration specialists. And we run into this all the time. It's like sometimes standards are too specific and just need to be taught in math class. And sometimes our music ones, I mean, thankfully our music ones aren't too specific anymore. They are kind of bigger picture. But there are moments where things need to exist on their own, and that's totally okay. It's finding those moments where that intersection happens, where that, you know, fork in the road, and then they can just go together. And I think the last piece before maybe we give some examples of what we mean and what this could look like is to talk about assessment. I know it's like the 4-letter word, right? But we also really feel it's important, you know, listen, I tell this story often, but I worked with a science teacher who wanted to bring, you know, the arts, you know, she wanted to do something with me. She's like, and actually ended up being a lesson in our book. And she's like, well, I'm tone deaf. And I mean, really good science teacher, by the way, fantastic teacher. She's like, I'm tone deaf. I know it. Like, music is not my thing. So I never feel comfortable teaching sound waves. Could we do something together with that? Well, that's a great connection. And I was like, awesome. But I'm thinking, being tone deaf doesn't mean like you're not comfortable teaching sound waves because you think you're tone deaf. Like, it was a sad moment. And she's a friend of mine. And so we came up with a way with using boom whackers, because who doesn't love a boom? Bring any boom whacker into any room and people will smile, right? I just broke them out the past 3 days with my kids and they were like so excited. And so bring that into a 7th grade science class, and all of a sudden we're using boom whackers to teach sound waves. And so they're composing songs, but they're having to understand dissonance and consonance and what happens with the sound waves and all of that. And by the end of it, she was like, man, we need to spend more time on this. Like, all of a sudden, her comfort level became so much greater with teaching that content, which is hers, because we brought it together, made it more fun for her, and made it come to life through the boomwhackers. It became more realistic, I guess. And so she's like, we're doing this again, and next time we need to, and we did, and it was a lot of fun. So I think that there's also that part, but then at the end of the day, it's, well, now we need to assess it because we're teaching through standards. And so needing to make sure that it's not like, okay, well, I'm going to do these 7 science concepts, and then what's that tag on music one you want at the end? That's not how we went about it. It's going about it through an integrated, you're doing this through music. And so it was the sound waves through understanding the pitch and sound waves through boomwhackers, but where did all those intersections happen? So making it equitable through the content, and not like people like, oh, well, they're creating something, so it was creative, or it sounded good, or, these subjective things that we don't have standards that measure. And really, you will see, because we give you the rubrics for every lesson we give. They are very objective and standards based, and all quantifiable in terms of how you can set that up to grade the students, to assess how they've learned the standards. Go ahead, Zach, jump in.
And one last piece before we give some examples. And I gotta be honest, I learned this from the STEM department. I learned that they do not assess their students on whether or not the projects in their final form fully work. And that's a very important piece for them, because they have incredibly intelligent students who follow the design process. They do all the steps correctly, process-wise, but their final product, for whatever reason, doesn't perform the way it's quote unquote supposed to. They, as a department, very often for advanced projects, do not take away points for that. And I thought that was a real learning moment for me as I was kind of shaping my head around the assessment side of all these projects. Because I very easily, it would come to me, well, okay, we got this cool thing, let's put it together. Finding the cool things was never difficult for me, honestly. But the assessment side, knowing what is best, what is correct, or what is the closest thing to correct given the context or situation you're in. And that's a pretty interesting thing that I learned. I would say that in a particular lesson that is in the book that you can find, where students basically are measuring noise pollution.
Oh, that's a great segue. I'm going to share my screen.
It's almost like we talked, Shawna.
It's almost like we talked.
It's almost. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
In a lesson that I particularly love, just because I absolutely love nature, and especially through virtual teaching, I tell the kids, except for on a gloomy day like today, like, open a window, look at a tree. Is it green or is it not? Like, these are the things that I do. I love nature, and I think that this lesson is great because it has students going outside, measuring noise pollution, studying the possible noise pollution based off of maps. If anyone's done any apartment hunting or house hunting, you'll see that some of the websites you can do that on have a noise pollution map, and so you can extrapolate from those, or you can just look at Google Maps and do the same thing. But the point is,
but they don't have like a neighbor pollution, right? Like quality of neighbors in the next door houses.
I don't think mine are going to
We'll
see
leave that
this,
for
but-
another day. Yeah. Moving on.
Woo!
Inside joke.
Oh, geez, Louise. So you really got me there, Shawna.
You're welcome.
So in here, they're doing all this measuring of noise pollution, but also tying that to bird ecology and listening to bird sounds and doing melodic dictation and learning about the history of melodic dictation of birds and how that has inspired musical composition. To the point that I was saying about assessment, nowhere in the assessment of this project where students are doing all these fantastic things does it say that they need to prove that the New Jersey Turnpike right outside their window means they got less pigeons in their backyard. Like it doesn't have to prove per se, just like we wouldn't want any person in the science realm trying to prove something with their data gathering. You know, the point is to gather data to make possible connections and investigate those further, but to never go into an experiment like that with a bias. And so in the assessment of that, that is one particular place where that was realized. Yeah, but love that lesson.
It's a good lesson. And an authentic experience for the students in their environment. Like it's totally each, and that's the point, like each kid's going to have a very different result if they're doing it at home, because each one, it's going to have different sounds potentially around them, even though they might be in the same community. So that is one example that pulls in music, science, engineering, and technology. Another one, this actually was in my classroom and my kiddos. This is the rule of the 18th, if anyone's heard of it. It is how stringed instruments, the fretboards, are built. It is upon the rule of 18th, which is actually 17.83, but it wouldn't be the rule of 17.83, does not really roll off the tongue very well. But having students understand where do frets get placed on a fretboard? And so doing that, I did this with my guitar students, and they could pick a half size, 3/4 size, or full size guitar. And they had to measure out, they had to do all the calculations, where should each of the frets go? And then glue, we did it with cardboard and toothpicks, and glued them on, and then fishing line. I went cheap DIY. You could go as crazy as you want. I mean, you could have them sawing, you could give them wood or whatever. I had an awesome custodian at my school who cut me strips of cardboard to half size guitar, 3/4 or full size guitar necks. But this is a really authentic experience for these kids that were learning the guitar anyway. So this you could bring in not only a general music class, but into a guitar performance class or ensemble class, and have them kind of learn that background of where do they go and why and how. And then taking a step further, I took my kids to the Martin Guitar Factory in Nazareth, PA. Yeah, best field trip ever, folks. Seriously. So cool. And they got to see them being made, and they had this background knowledge to be able to talk to these really artists within at Martin and learn how it works and interact with them and talk about it. And they were really impressed with that my kids knew and understood that distance between it to get different pitches and things like that.
You know, so while you're on this project, Shawna, sorry to interrupt, but
no, please.
But it really seeing any of your lessons that have to do with better understanding a guitar really hits home for me. And in all our talks, I don't know if I ever said, let me know if I ever mentioned it. But I really think the genesis of my interest in music technology and this side of things started with guitar tinkering. And
I didn't know that.
It's because I got a guitar, as many kids do in 6th grade as a holiday gift. And I'm strumming on the thing. And of course, because it's a, holiday gift guitar for a 6th grader, it very quickly breaks. And not that my parents weren't it's not that they were like unwilling to take me to a store to get it fixed or anything. I just grew up all my childhood seeing, because my dad works in technology.
Mhm.
I saw growing up people constantly going to my dad with something broken. Usually it was a router, but or a printer. And so I grew up seeing people go to him with broken stuff saying, this isn't working, what do I do? And like magic happens.
And it works.
And it works. And so I'm sitting, with this guitar that's broken, and I'm thinking, well, I wonder what the magic part is. And honestly, through learning how to fix the pickups on a guitar, or how to even troubleshoot an issue on a guitar, figure out the lines, and eventually soldering cables, and the entire rabbit hole that brought me down in songwriting, in getting my first loop pedal, trying to put it all through GarageBand on some no-name digital audio converter that honestly was probably made out of toothpicks. It was tinkering with guitars that started it all. And this is just the last thing I'll say on that is, I truly, even then, had a really good feeling that when I got into the insides of the guitar, fixed it and put it back together, my better understanding of that instrument, I swear it made me play it better.
Oh, absolutely. I agree with that. 100%.
And I took that to every other instrument, and eventually piece of software, digital audio workstation, studio environment that I work in now. And it's just the ability to understand, or at the very least, because that 80%, at the very least, just appreciate the incredible just engineering and design, even if it was made out of toothpicks, that goes behind your gear. It makes you a better musician.
Absolutely. And I will say, not to put it up again, but that's how we ended up with this cover, right? So it is. Yeah. So this cover, just so everybody knows, we'll give you a little background. This beautiful cover is hand drawn. This is not stock. This is not stock. This is actually my colleague at work, visual art teacher, high school visual art teacher, who for fun builds guitars out of a block of wood, like from block of wood to gorgeous, amazing sounding guitars. And so we went to him and I was like, can we use one of your sketches? And he took it and then gave us this side by side to show the inside versus the outside of the guitar, to kind of really dig into what the stem means with the music. And it was really important to us, and it has that connection to that friendship. And this teacher was actually a big part of kind of my journey with STEM and arts integration and all that within my school district. So there's a little fun fact about our cover. It has a lot of hidden meanings. This cover, it's not just kind of there. The trees behind it, you can see the guitar coming out of the wood. There's a lot more. It's a lot deeper than you may realize.
Yeah, it's a really nice cover.
Yeah, we are proud of it. Okay, so next one is coding and composition. So using an awesome program, think 80s Mario Brothers, right? And using that and having kids code in songs to compose music using 100% coding. And so I have some audio examples. I'll play one of them. Oh, let me unplug my headphones or you won't hear it. I hope you can hear it. There we go. So just a little example of one that I didn't create, that one of my kiddos did. Seventh grade project that I did with them. It is in the book, but really fun. They're using NES controllers that are USB into the computer, which just ups the fun. Do you need those? No, but like, how much more fun is it to sit there with an old, original NES controller? And you can get them super cheap on Amazon. So that's another example of project. Another one, again, this brings in the Makey that I talked about, and this was the final evolution of where the magnetic dartboard went. So you see kids recording pitches in. I wouldn't let them use the stock ones with their iPads. They had to play them and record each pitch in, and then they're coding in Scratch and playing songs. I even brought kindergartners in, and they were teaching them how to play their little potato keyboards or whatever they were. Every station had a different thing. But they were going over sight words and having the kids sound them out and find the letters and then play the matching letter with it. And it was just a fun experience all around, of a way to kind of like take it to another level and get the kids to kind of explain to little kids what's going on in little kid language. Can be an experience in and of itself in the STEM world. But if nothing else, it got those kids intrigued, those little kids, to get that inspiration to want to learn things like this. So this was another really, and this project totally was created by my students and myself together on this journey, 100%, the coding and performance. All right, Zach's got a pop quiz.
Okay, it's a little pop quiz.
And then we'll take any questions.
And then we'll take questions. We'll ask you a question in return. We'll take a few.
Yeah.
So the question is, does anyone know what a lighter, a doorbell buzzer, and an acoustic guitar pickup all have in common? It's not a setup for a joke. I'm legitimately asking. Does anyone?
It sounds like one of those, like, a rabbi and a priest and this walk into a bar.
A lighter, a door buzzer, and a guitar pickup walk in. I don't know
what do they have in common? The bar they're in? No.
No, but
put it in, type it in the chat if you have any.
Type in the chat.
Clue. What do they have in common?
IDK.
I know. I was wondering the same. I was like, man, we should have that going.
Yeah, it really should. Well, it's a short answer, so we'll give them like 5 seconds.
Yeah.
This is a lot like teaching on the computer.
It is.
So I'll give the goose away because I do absolutely want to have time to take questions. The answer is they buzz. It is piezoelectricity. So piezoelectricity, which is essentially just the idea. I like they buzz though. So piezoelectricity is basically the idea that electricity can be turned into sound, and we know this obviously, but there's literally something. I wish I had it with me, but I don't. But basically, it is a small little just disc, and this little disc is inside in one shape or form or another in all of those things. The very same thing that listens to an acoustic guitar is the same little device or that has the same scientific principle to it that starts your lighter. And it's basically the fact that kinetic energy that you like click the lighter with, we're talking like the long ones that you do the candles with, that click. That click is a piezoelectric crystal being hit, and that kinetic energy turns into a spark, sparking the flame. Whereas in the acoustic guitar, the sound waves hit that crystal, which then translate into electronic signal that has been sent to an amplifier. And then after this, if we had a little bit more time, I'd go into a whole lesson. And this is kind of where our hands-on portion comes in, where we get hands-on with piezoelectric crystals. But you may just have to see us in Atlantic City for that.
Absolutely. And funny part is that the buzzed could work if we had the joke going into the bar. They leave buzzed. Oh,
Whoa! And Shawna, just for the record, that's 8:57, and you're like that sharp. I don't even know.
Thank Amy for setting me up with that. So, do any of you have any questions for us? Any questions? We'll put this up. That is a QR code that'll take you right to Amazon if you'd like to buy our book if you haven't already. But anyone have any questions for us this evening? Melissa Clark, do you have a question for us?
So
Comment?
I can't see myself now, but I was excited that you had the theremin in here because as I shared, I got that theremin grant.
Which is so exciting.
Thank you. So I'm struggling with writing. I'm making a Google form on it right now. So I guess when I'm done, can I just forward it to you too, and you can kind of give me some feedback on it?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. We are here to help. For sure.
That.
You know that.
I'm excited about it. You know, I loved your part about the collaboration, trying to find a buddy, and like, so there's a young science teacher at my school who plays the guitar and loves music. And so that's kind of how I hooked him. I was like, I want a theremin and I want to write a grant. And he was all about it. So I and it was his first grant. So I was happy to kind of help him pave that direction because it's, you know, it's a fun process. So hopefully we're going to be getting those kits. The kits are in. We just have to get the kids to make the kits. And then, you know, we'll get on that, you know, when we get back to school.
Well, send us pictures. We want to see how it ends up. Tweet. Well, I'll see it on Twitter. I know you'll put it all over Twitter. So
yeah. So I'm excited about that. But I have to kind of get one going before this group of kids I have is gone. So they end in a few weeks. So I got this.
You got this. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. All right.
Are there any other questions for Zach and Shawna? You can always put it in the chat as well.
Yeah. And they can also, you know, reach out to either of us after the fact. If you're watching this recorded and you have a question, feel free to reach us. You can find us on social media or my email's on the NJMEA, part of the board of directors web links, or Amy will probably put it on there too.
Here is a link to their book so you can see it yourself. This is Integrating STEM with Music Units. With music units, lessons, and adaptations. I think it was on the review page, so it's a link to the reviews. But if you just click on the book, you can buy it too.
Exactly.
Great. I love it. I think you both are shattering a lot of the preconceived notions that people have of trying to integrate STEAM and STEM into music. I mean, even today I was on one of the chats and you know, a teacher wrote in one of these many groups that we have on Facebook, they just wrote like, I have to now integrate and I don't know how to do that. And okay, so how do I just check the box? And I don't blame the person for doing this. This is not something they felt comfortable with. And when you're first given something so new, it is that fear. And so it's like, how do I check the box? So I think you really shattered that preconceived notion that we should just be checking boxes when we're told to integrate, because when you deep dive into it, you really do realize how, like you said, those intersections are there and they're natural. They're natural. These aren't like, you know, some weird, you know, roadway. This is a very natural intersection. So I'm so glad you all addressed that tonight.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it's big for us. It's a big component because there are so many people that want to be in their silos and pass judgment. And we get the box checking, and sometimes we have to for survival. But then maybe it starts out as box checking, but then the more you check boxes, sometimes you can kind of shift away from that, just doing it to box check and really evolving our practice as educators in the classroom.
Yeah. You're getting a lot of thank yous from our participants accidentally directly messaging me, but I want to get to you. You're like, I'm seeing all these. Oh yeah, that's to me. So I'm giving you those thank yous.
Thank you.
We really, really,
Thank you.
NJMEA really appreciates it. If you don't know, Shawna is on our board of NJMEA, and she and I have been working hard on this upcoming conference. So do come to the conference.
And I'll give a big teaser. I am super stoked for this year's Tech Academy. So if you can get off Thursday and you're interested in tech, I'm telling you, it is going to be very different than in the past. Can't talk too much about it yet, but I'll be pushing some stuff out. It will be worth your time on Thursday. I've got some incredible people that are going to be presenting. You know, like a Brent Paschke, Google him. Pharrell Williams, guitar player, is going to be presenting at NJMEA, who's a dear friend of mine. So he's going to be, I'm going to be zooming him in from LA to present and talk to us about music production and how to do it with kids. And he also wrote Tuniversity for Apple. So it's going to be amazing. Amazing. We've got some really, really cool people coming in to talk. We're going to have some tech performances.
Yeah,
which is a
Shawna worked hard on
groundbreaking
that.
for NJMEA.
Yeah.
So yay, let's hope things go in a positive direction with COVID, and really exciting. But if you can get Thursday, get I'm telling you, it will be worth it this year. Come hang out, come learn. It's going to be a great tech academy this year.
Yeah, we've been working hard on the Thursday academies. Like we really just like for elementary as well. Though we're not doing elementary performances. We weren't going to bring the kids into that. But I did, when I was looking over the elementary academy, really try to find the sessions and the names that most elementary music educators are like, oh, and then jump. So well, do come, because we have worked hard, and some reason Shawna pulled me and moved me over to tech as well. So somehow I'm jumping academies. Thanks, Shawna.
Welcome to my world, Amy.
I'm getting.
But hey, in the Tech Academy,
good luck, Amy. That day doesn't stop.
I know. And the Tech Academy is going to have two strands: an elementary and middle school general music strand, and then high school production. So it's really going to be geared to what you guys need. So we're really excited. So I can't say it enough.
If you're elementary, you just hop between the two academies, because it's really going to be quite good. Yeah. So
if we do say so ourselves, we're super.
I think we do say so ourselves, but that's okay. Poor Shawna is going to get a big cane in a second, and she's going to get pulled off.
I am. It's bedtime. It's bedtime.
It is bedtime. It is bedtime for all of us.
For all.
So get that sleepy time tea.
Yes. All
thank
right.
you,
Thank
Zach
you.
and Shawna. And thank you, everyone. Have a great night.
Sounds like. Thanks so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.